forgot that.
I didn't even know we were live.
I forgot the countdown.
Hi, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Patriots Pulse podcast. As you can see, we have a very special guest with us today. I don't even think he needs an introduction. Everyone in the Patriots community, even NFL Twitter, should know who Mike Kadlick is. Um, I'm also here, obviously, with Andrew. Andrew, I hope you're doing well, but not to push you aside, we have the Mike Kadlick on today. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad we got this together. That was a perfect start to the podcast because I feel like that is how myself and Taylor's pod, the Pat's Daily pod, always starts because my Wi-Fi or my computer is always effed up somehow, and I'm always looking at the screen like, wait, are we live? Are we not live? So now I'm feeling right at home. So this is super fun, and glad you guys are having me. This is gonna be cool. So
Yeah, of course. Andrew, how are you? Of course. How are you?
I'm doing great. Still battling the cold weather up here. Lucky you down in Cali, but yeah, it's going well.
All right. If you're ready to jump into it, I am too.
Yeah. So first, we're just gonna start off just a little interview with Mike about just his career and everything. But yeah, so I just want to start off like, what was your main inspiration to becoming a beat reporter?
So the only thing, like literally the only thing I like in this world is, well, my fiance and then sports. And so like sports and football specifically. And so like I played football in high school, I played football in college, and I find it hard to be in a work environment where I don't absolutely love what I'm doing. And so I basically I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just knew I liked sports, right? And so in college, like I said, I played football and I interned in the sports information department because, I was just a communications major. I thought maybe this is what I should do, try and get into the media field in one way or another. And whether that was PR, social, like something like that, I knew I needed to be around football because it's all I really did. Like even before I was on Twitter and writing and podcasting and all this other stuff that I do right now, I was always like scrolling Twitter looking for the information first, and I was always like following Adam Schefter and Woj and all those guys. Like I loved the idea of media. I just didn't really know how to get into it. And so then I went to college. I then was getting my master's at Boston University, and when I was there, I was working full time and getting my master's part time because BU is a shitload of money, and so I was like, oh, I gotta work. So I was working and doing school full time. And when I was doing school, I took a sports journalism class with A. Sherrod Blakely, who was a Celtics reporter for NBC Sports Boston, and so garnered a really solid relationship with him, and he ended up helping me get an internship at CLNS Media, where I work now, and that's where I kind of started this whole thing. When I was at BU, I could, instead of taking some like public relations lab course or whatever there, like you could intern instead and do like a career-based thing. And so I did that and got course credit for CLNS. And from there I was hooked, and I was, I thought I cared about, I thought I cared about the work I was doing at BU, but deep down it wasn't doing it for me. And I was in love with the sports stuff I was doing on the side. And so, the WEEI job came about, and I was lucky enough to land that. Worked there for a year, and their parent company struggled, and I was unfortunately, a layoff for them earlier this year, which obviously stunk. But at this point, I'm over it, and I am back with CLNS doing what I can now, and trying to find that next step. And so that's kind of how I got here. And that was a long way of saying, I've worked at other places in the past, and I've done marketing, I've done administrative stuff, and if I have to fall back on something like that, I will. But at this point, I'm never going to leave working in this field because I'm just obsessed with it. And I love working in a place that I like. I love the industry. Like it's hard for me to do anything other than sports. And so that's kind of why I'm here, and that's why I've stuck with it.
Man. Is there like a specific moment where you realize like, I really want to do this?
Oh man. I just think maybe it's like my age and like the Gen Z in me, where it's like the writing and the podcasting is one thing, but like it's such a social media driven like job right now where you gain followers, but you also want to be authentic, and you have to have more than just a byline on a website. You have to have a social media presence and a place where you can be you, but also be professional. And so, like, I think to answer your question, I knew that I needed to do that and I needed to build my own brand. But sometimes it felt like I was just bashing my head against the wall. And it's like nobody's liking my tweets and nobody cares what I have to say. And how are other people doing this and what am I doing wrong? And there was one specific time, and it wasn't even Patriots related. It was, I don't even know at what stage I was in, whether I was interning or whether I was trying to do this yet. But there was one tweet I tweeted, and it was like, I tweeted about something about Lonzo Ball coming to the Celtics, and it got like 400 likes. And I was like, this is sick. Like, my tweet's going mega viral right now. And like, I loved that. Like, I don't know. I didn't realize I liked people seeing my name and my stuff, but in that moment I was like, oh wow, this is super cool. And so maybe that wasn't the exact moment, but I just vividly remember, it's funny. The reason I remember it is because I tweeted that in the morning, and I was sitting on the beach with my now fiance, and I was like, I kept looking at my phone. I was like, Kate, like, this thing just keeps getting likes. It keeps getting likes. Like, what's going on? And it's like, she was like, could you just put your phone away and spend your damn time with me on the beach? I was like, okay, fine. But that long story short, that was really cool. But then, yeah, I just, being around the team, being able to, finally gain some traction on social and feel like people cared what I had to say. And now that I'm sort of have made my way into this, circle of friends on the beat and like been a part of it. It's like, I never want to give it up.
Yeah, if I had to ask a quick question, well, before I even ask the question, credit to you and Taylor and CLNS, because like I've only been in the Twitter realm, I guess you could say, for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And just the stark difference. I'm not even saying it was bad last year. It was just like the production and like the quality and just like the overall work that you guys like put out has been crazy to see. Like it stands out to me, and I guarantee it stands out to like the rest of the community, all of Twitter.
Yeah.
So credit to you guys, because you dedicate a lot of time.
I appreciate you saying that. One, because it is a lot of work, and we do work hard, and I think I'm glad to see people see that. But I have to give the production value shout out to our guy Amit, who I don't know if you guys have heard us talk about him. He's the CLNS producer. I'm glad you guys know who he is, because he is CLNS media as far as like producing every show, and he has the equipment and he brings it along, and he is the fastest editor you'll ever see, where me and Taylor will do a stand-up outside the stadium, and he'll, edit it and make a thumbnail and put it out. And it's the reason I think why people come to our stuff, is because the production value is so high. And maybe people like to see what me and Taylor have to say, but it's also the way it's portrayed, and the camera and the lighting and things like that. Like, sometimes it just looks better when me and Taylor are standing outside the stadium and it looks really clear, rather than us being, in boxes on Restream. So I have to shout out Amit for that. He's the reason. He's the guy that makes us look so good. But yeah, thank you for saying that as well.
Yeah, of course. And shout out Amit. I hope he recovered from his, big injury that he suffered.
He's better now. He's still a little gimpy. He's limping around, but he's getting better.
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, do you, in your opinion, does the fact that you cover the Patriots and just like a Boston sports team, does that impact your love for the field, what you do even more? Or if like randomly, like this is hypothetically, but if you got told to cover, what's a bad team, like the Jaguars, for example, like, would you have that same passion?
Probably not. I don't think I would have the same passion. Even though I don't really feel like a fan anymore. And to be blunt, sometimes I miss that. Like, this weekend I went to the Jets game on Thursday. So I was down there, and then I came home, and on Sunday was able to sit on my ass and watch Red Zone for 8 hours, 9 hours, and watch through Sunday night and didn't have to do anything. And when I was sitting there, I was like, wow, I kind of miss this. Like, it's nice to not be working all day on a Sunday and just watch the rest of football, because I am a fan at heart. But at the same time, then you're there on a Sunday and you're around the team and you're in the stadium and it's like, it is the best job in the world, and I'm lucky as hell to do it. But as far as like being from Boston, and maybe it's because I'm from here and I've done this, and like I've mentioned already, I have a fiance and I'm getting married next year and things like that. Like, yeah, I don't have any desire to move, and I don't think I would move to cover another team. It's not in what I want to do, and so that also makes it challenging because I mentioned I got laid off, and I'm not going to, if there's a job open on the 49ers beat, even if they're good, like I'm not going out west. Like that's just I'm sticking here, so I kind of have to find a job with the Patriots, or I have to go do something else. And so I think, again, to answer your question there, I think if I had to, I could put together solid content, for the Jaguars or the Niners or stuff like that. But I think having the familiarity with this team and loving the Patriots definitely helps for sure.
Yeah, I mean, really quick, just personally, like I totally see where you're coming from. Like if this is, I'm not sitting here, I don't want people to think that I'm like over here saying it just so you could be like, hey, why don't you come work over here? But like if I were to get offered something like in the Boston area, I would 100% move my ass across the country,
Right.
because I genuinely like love that area so much, and I love the team so much. So it's like I could see where you're coming from. Like if I was told like the Niners, like I have a connection, like come work here, I would say no. So
Yeah.
just hearing your drive too, I can't imagine like that I wouldn't say conflict, but just like, I'm honestly just throwing out a word salad right now. Essentially what I'm trying to say is like, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like, and I also go back to, sticking on the career stuff before we get into, real Pats and Niners talk for a second. Like I feel like I'm in frankly, like a tough spot right now sometimes, because I did get my dream job pretty early and I was able to cover the Patriots full time for WEI on salary and have benefits and, all this good stuff. And then, to have it kind of, I don't want to say taken away from me, right? Because I'm still here and I'm working for a different outlet now, but like, I don't want to go backwards. I don't want to cover a different team. I don't want to move. I've done the Patriots. I loved it. This is my team, and I got lucky, and now I'm trying to kind of find it again. And so it's tough in that regard too. But I would say too with you, Los, or you, Andrew, like you're young, you can move around, like try whatever, and something will work. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
I also wanted to ask, I think we covered your least favorite not being able to watch, or least favorite part about the job, not being able to watch football Sunday in Red Zone. What would be your favorite part about the job, you think?
I love the social media stuff. I love covering the team on Twitter. If I could, again, I like writing too. Like, putting it together a good story was some of my favorite stuff I did when I was at EEI. Like, because right now I'm not really required to put out a certain amount of content or whatever. Like I do Pat's Daily with Taylor, but it's kind of just, in my part-time package with CLNS. And, we don't have to get into that, but like that, I was, I had to put out a certain, like I had to do 2 columns a week and I did injury reports and stuff like that. And some of that stuff got kind of annoying, but like writing a really good story, like I sat down with Will Greer last year for like an hour in the locker room, and like he kind of poured his whole journey to me. And even though he was the 3rd string quarterback, like it was super cool to hear that. And I spent a lot of time writing a long feature on him, and to kind of see that whole thing get put together was super fun. So my favorite part outside of social, I would say, is, writing like a long form thing like that. But at the end of the day, like going down there, reporting on the small stuff, tweeting about the team, letting the fans know what's going on, and being one of the people actually there is something that I don't take for granted. And that's probably my favorite part, is having the access that I do and sort of being a beat reporter. So,
yeah, I mean, just seeing like how much work, like I already credited you guys, and not to like do it again, but you're extremely active all the time. Like I have your notifications on. I see Mike Kadlick pop up on my notifications all day. Like the first thing when I met you in person, the first thing I ever told you was like, you get to some stuff before me, and it's like, like I got like you're like honestly, you're like a standard. So
I
that's how
appreciate
I
that.
view it.
Well, it's funny, Los, you say that because like that's sort of some of the stuff like when I wasn't around the team every single day and when I was still trying to kind of make a name and have people know who I was doing a lot of the stuff you guys do, which is pay attention to the team even if you're not around the team and tweet about it. And I mean, you've taken it to the next level with like every single time a podcast comes out with some random Patriots connection. Like it's like Los put it on 15 times, like speed, like playback, and just listen to everything and transcribe everything, and the whole thing's done. It's like I don't even have to go listen to or I don't know if you did Bill O'Brien on Games with Names, but like stuff like that. It's like it's important and it adds a lot of cool context to things, and that's the right way to do it. I think while you're getting started is just be super plugged into the team, even if you can't be around it. And Andrew too, with your account, like before, your account was like, I remember years ago, you shouted me out for something. I was like, oh, wow, Nest PGS has a ton of followers and got me a ton of followers. Like, so you've done it. You guys have both done a really good job in this sort of niche you guys have. And I would just say that, wherever you guys want to go next, like you guys are doing it the right way.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, now let's talk about this shitty Patriots team.
Yeah.
Do gotta ask this though.
Yeah, go
One
for it.
last question.
Yeah, for sure.
Favorite pizza topping and favorite SpongeBob character.
All right, favorite pizza topping. I mean, everyone wants me to say pickle, but like realistically, I think it's pepperoni because it's just a classic. But like, I'm telling you, like, I know that. Yeah, I've sort of made this stupid shtick on Twitter, like tweeting out like gross pizzas like Caesar salad and pickle pizza. But like, I'm not like that. The pickle pizza from Town Spa in Stoughton, Mass, is legitimately like the best pizza in the world. Like, Andrew, you're from around here. I don't know if you've ever been to Town Spa in Stoughton. I know Los, you're on the West Coast, but do you guys like pickles?
Yeah.
Yeah, but not
like
on my pizza.
No. Hold on. No, that's not what I asked you. Do you like pickles?
Yes.
And do you like pizza?
Yeah.
Then you would like the pickle pizza. I'm telling you, you need to try it. It's the pickle pizza from Town Spa is my favorite pizza, but I think like across the board, pepperoni is just a classic, and that's the best. And then SpongeBob character. Oh man. Like it's super basic, but like I really think SpongeBob himself, like when you watch SpongeBob now versus when you watched it as a kid, like there's so many funny jokes in that show that like would go over your head as a kid. And so like some of the dumb shit that SpongeBob says, or like the way they like, there was a thing and I sent it to Al, I said it to Barth the other day on Instagram. It was like, there was one scene in SpongeBob where it was SpongeBob and Patrick and they got pulled up to the Flying Dutchman's boat with Squidward because like the anchor came down and messed up the Pineapple House, and like just the writing in that like 5-minute scene was so damn funny. And it's like something you didn't even think was that funny when you were a kid, but then when you watch it now, it's like, oh, that is effing hilarious. And a lot of it had to do with SpongeBob. So I think him, when you watch him now, like he is actually very funny. So I would say SpongeBob is probably my favorite character. What about you guys? Okay, we'll stay on this. Let's not even talk about the Pats. Let's just talk about random shit. What's your guys' favorite pizza and what's your guys' favorite SpongeBob character?
You want to take it first, Andrew?
Sure. I'm bland. I'll just say cheese pizza any day.
That's fine.
Straight cheese pizza.
From where? You go to Antonio's out there?
Not out here. I haven't gone yet, but there's the one in Worcester I go to all the time.
Okay, yeah, that's right down the street from Worcester State. That place is bomb.
Well, for SpongeBob, my parents actually didn't let me watch SpongeBob when I was a kid. They said it would cause me and my sister to fight, but I think they just didn't want to hear the annoying voices all the time.
Okay.
But I would say SpongeBob when I did watch it briefly.
Okay, so you watch it now. You've seen it now, right? Briefly?
Not recently, but like when I was like little, I'd watch it.
Okay. All right, what do you got?
I mean, for pizza, this is going to be a gross take, I guess you could say. I love pepperoni, but the one from Mountain Mike's in particular, that's my favorite. There's also, I don't know if you guys have I doubt you got Bronco Billy's out there. That's like a Bay Area thing. they have a really good pepperoni pizza. But as far as SpongeBob, I could talk all day about SpongeBob. That's all I watched growing up.
Yep.
I still watch it now. I'll put like funny moments on like randomly.
Me too. It's the best.
And I agree with the writing, like you said, like it's so simple.
So funny.
Like Patrick is by far my favorite character.
Yeah.
I don't like how they've written him now. Like now they make him just like plain stupid.
Realistically, the best SpongeBob is only like the first like couple seasons.
Yeah.
The stuff
Yeah.
now, it's not that good. It's really not.
Mhm.
But the first like maybe 3 or 4 seasons is like legitimate comedy gold. Like I'm not just saying that just to keep the shtick up. Like it's so damn funny. It is so funny.
Yeah.
Now you
It's
have
very
me
cool.
like I'm gonna probably get off this podcast and go watch funny moments now just to like laugh. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's very quotable. Like I watch like a little scene and I know exactly what they're gonna say.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we should hop into Patriots.
Wait,
talk
have you
now.
ever had pepperoni pizza with hot honey on it?
No.
Honey?
It's good. Hot honey. It's like spicy honey. It's very, very good. It's like a thing around here now too. Pepperoni with hot honey. You should
Can
try
you
it.
get that at Antonio's?
I don't know. Probably.
I'll just bring my own honey.
Yeah, bring it. Go get like Mike's. It's called Mike's Hot Honey. You can buy it at the supermarket. Go get a brony pizza from No, now you guys got me on Antonio's. This is the Antonio's has I think they have a mac and cheese pizza that's really good. And there was something else there that I used to get too. Maybe it was like a chicken bacon or no, but the barbecue chicken pizza from Antonio's is really good too. So, yeah. All right, let's talk Pats.
All right, so some Patriots talk. Start with team overview. Is going to go over key players, just the current states of each team. So we're going to start off with the injury report. 49ers have some guys they were missing today in practice. Hargrave with a triceps injury, their nose tackle. And then Deebo Samuel, he's still dealing with that calf injury. He did not participate. And neither did Trent Williams with an illness. We'll see if that carries over throughout the week. And also George Kittle was limited with a hamstring injury. So, yeah, what do you guys make of those?
Mike, you can go.
You want me first? I would just say
there you
that
go.
the 49ers, that 49ers Rams game last week was like an ambulance game. Everybody was hurt. And, LA found a way to win, and now San Francisco's sitting here at 1-2. But I think in general, like this team, an overview on all of that. Brock Purdy practiced. He seems healthy. Quarterback's the most important position in football. Jawan Jennings had 3 touchdowns last week. Ayuk's going to play. And I think the thing with Ayuk where he hasn't had a great start to the season, but it's because he held out all summer. And so he doesn't have his legs under him. He's not, he hasn't been 100% throughout the start of the season. But I think now heading into week 4, he's going to kind of have that, he's going to have his legs under him, like I just said. And so I think they're going to be fine. I think, obviously Hargrave not being out there is a tough blow to their front, but it's not hard to get pressure on this Patriots team right now, as we know. So I think they're going to be just fine. And then just kind of going out, like George Kittle's going to be back. So my take on it is I was worried about the Niners injuries last week against a good Rams team, but I think they're going to be fine against the Patriots this week.
Yeah, I mean, some of their key injuries, I don't think they affect them. Obviously, on the offensive side, they do affect them. We'll see if I doubt Deebo plays. Well, Trent Williams, I'm expecting to play. Usually, when NFL players have an illness, they tough it out. They play. Maybe he's not 100%, but I assume he's going to play. The one that, like you brought up, Mike, Brandon Ayuk, I think like they're going to have guys fill in. Like for someone like Deebo, like Jawan Jennings, 3 touchdowns.
Right.
He had like a crazy game. Brandon Ayuk, according to fantasy points data, I don't know how trustworthy they are, but he apparently had the highest rate of separation out of any NFL player this whole season last week. So it was at, I believe, 46.9%. So I would say 47%. Take that as you will, but like you said, he's getting his legs under him. He's going to be a threat. We'll see what happens. I don't want to jump into too much of like matchups and everything, but Christian Gonzalez, he popped up on the injury report. Well, that could play a big role in how this whole game goes. So, yeah, I don't think any of the Niners injuries are going to affect them too much. I know they have a lot of big names that are injured, but it's still the Niners. Unfortunately, it's still the Patriots that, still don't match up too well with them.
Right.
I feel like the Niners can just make so many different players look so good at that offense. Like Jordan Mason, for example. I mean, he's a great running back, but he has looked great,
Right.
like really good, filling in for CMC. Juwan Jennings last week, 3 touchdowns, crazy game, crazy catch. But yeah, so Niners had a relatively brief injury report compared to the Patriots' lengthy one today. Among those, starting left tackle Vidarian Lowe, who's been battling with that knee injury, he was a non-participant again today. Mike, do you see any like significant improvements from Caden Wallace that he can make come Sunday after his shaky start on Thursday, assuming he's kind of launched into that starting left tackle role again?
Yeah, man, I put it this way. Today at practice, for the limited reps we saw, it looked like DeMontre Jacobs was taking their starting left tackle reps. And so I would say that right now, it's looking like they may end up starting their fourth tackle in 4 weeks on the left side. Now, things can change. Wallace was limited, but like you said, Lowe was a non-participant, and so things are going in the wrong direction here right now for the Patriots. I would say compared to how they wanted it to. I'm sure they wanted growth along their offensive line as opposed to what's been going on so far this season. And so, look, I don't know where they're at right now, but I have a hard time seeing Vidarian Lowe play. At this point, I would like to see Wallace play. It's promising that he was at least limited after getting banged up at the end of Thursday's game. But it's tough, and I don't see this getting much better before it getting worse. I'll say that.
Yeah, and to add on to the injuries, Michael Jordan, who's been their starting left guard, also did not practice today. He is battling an ankle injury, so that's their starting left side of the line, essentially, even though everyone considers City So the starter. But for the first 3 games, it was Michael Jordan.
Right.
Maybe it's, I don't want to say good timing, but since City So's back, at least in a limited capacity this week, that could shed some light on the situation, but it's going to be a lot of change. I think of someone like David Andrews, as far as like chemistry wise, like he's played with City So that's understandable, but just going into game shape, like NFL regular season shape, I don't know how comfortable you guys are with City So just jumping right in. Even if he is not 100%, maybe even if he's 90%, that still makes a bit of a difference. So that whole left side is a bit worrisome. We'll see where Nick Bosa lines up. That's going to be like a big storyline or something to look out for. If it's with DeMontre Jacobs, I don't even know what to say about that.
It's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
And look, I think they'll be okay with City So. It's nice that as Michael Jordan gets hurt, So is getting healthier, is back at practice, and I think that's huge. And I think that's kind of where they wanted to see this thing go all along, is have City So be back. And once he got healthy, hopefully Vidarian Lowe was there. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like he's going to be there, which is tough. But so I think they'll be okay with City. It might take him a week or two to kind of, I just said it with Ayuk, but get his feet under him, like get back into game shape and things like that. He hasn't practiced before this week since the end of August. So it's going to take some time. But I think that, it all comes down to getting 5 guys out there that are healthy and can see the game through, one set of eyes. And once that happens, that's kind of when you feel like you can put Drake May in. So getting healthy is huge. I think once the rest of their, the rest of their tackles continue to get healthy, they'll be able to find someone on the left side like Lowe that they can play there. Move Caden Wallace maybe to the right side where I think he's probably more comfortable, and then bump Mike Unwenu to guard, and everything kind of falls into place. But left tackle is going to continue to be a struggle right now, and it doesn't help that left guard is while it's somebody that's probably better than Michael Jordan at the position, it's somebody who's coming off an injury and hasn't really played competitive football in over a month.
I think it's really going to be pick and choose for Nick Bosa. I think he's just going to tell him, like, get me on that left side.
Yeah.
Or just whatever he thinks he can get by best. But flipping over to the Patriots defense, today in practice, they were without Anthony Jennings and Alex Austin. What do you guys make of those? I mean, Anthony Jennings is one of the Patriots' best run defenders. Alex Austin kind of filled in with Marco Wilson being inactive as that top rotational corner on Thursday night. So what do you guys make of those?
It's tough to have Austin out. Obviously, I think that we'll talk about. I guess we'll mention Christian Gonzalez in his own thing here, but he was limited today as well with the shoulder. So he's really been their best guy, and everyone else has sort of fallen into place. And you mentioned Marco Wilson. He didn't have a great start to the season, and he ended up being a healthy scratch because of it. And so to have now Alex Austin look okay. I don't think anybody played great on Thursday. Obviously, they lose 24-3, but to have Austin, get banged up is tough because now you got to rely on Wilson, who wasn't playing great, and it's to not practice. He wasn't out there on Monday when we were there. He wasn't out there today, so not a good start to the week for him. And then Jennings as well. He was limited. I think he'll probably play. He's a guy who has kind of battled and fought through injuries, most of this season already, and then a lot of last season, I think, too. And so not as worried about him, but it's tough to, lose a guy in Austin in that secondary for sure.
Yeah, so to start with Anthony Jennings, his injury actually kind of scared me when it happened on Thursday night because it was very similar to the Matthew Judon injury when he reached out. It was like an arm tackle, and then immediately they grabbed their bicep.
Yeah.
So that is something to monitor. Like you said, I do think he's going to play, and the fact that he is in a limited capacity, he's luckily didn't suffer that serious of an injury.
Right.
But for Alex Austin, yeah, that one's kind of worrisome just because Marco Wilson didn't play well. They put Alex Austin in his place, and then now he's already out. So
right.
We'll see what the practice report is like tomorrow. If he participates even in a limited capacity, which that's the hope, I guess. But the other one that I wanted to point out with Christian Gonzalez was Jonathan Jones. Jonathan Jones is on the injury report as well. He's always been like one of those like random limited guys.
It's like Brady. Brady always wound up on the injury report. Yeah, I'm not worried about John Jones either. But
the only thing that I will say about Jonathan Jones is that he does miss those random 1 or 2 games like throughout the season that you don't think it's right. You don't think it's like a serious thing, and then out of nowhere it's like, oh yeah, he's been declared inactive.
Right.
That's the only worry I have, considering the injuries they have in the secondary. But yeah, I would assume that it's just one of those veteran things, like you said, like Brady.
Yeah.
Also want to ask, so Raekwon McMillan had a kind of a difficult time filling in as that second force for the run defense Thursday night. He shot the gap a couple times and just whiffed on the tackles on Breece Hall. With Sion Takitaki still on the PUP list, do you see them making any adjustments with how they were utilizing Tavai and how they were utilizing McMillan, if they're going to replace him at all?
As you watch the game, they really missed Jawan Bentley. They missed a lot of tackles. They were poor in coverage. Tavai is a guy for me who, when he first got here, I was very low on. I didn't think he was a great player. He was poor in coverage. He looked very slow. And then he shut me up for the last year and a half and had played great football. He was awesome last year. And he was pretty good to start this season too. And then as soon as his running mate in Bentley rather goes down and he kind of had to take on a bigger role, it wasn't great last week. He, Tyler Conklin went for a career high 93 yards in coverage. And I know that has to do not in coverage. He went for 93 yards with linebackers in coverage, and that has to do with the safeties as well, obviously. But I don't know how they adjust. I think honestly, they're just going to kind of rely on the guys they have right now and see if they can see it through and make their adjustments from last week. And, a guy like Joe Giles Harris came up from the practice squad, didn't play a ton, but he's a guy who I could see, maybe getting a couple more reps here because he had a good preseason. And they, I was actually surprised he didn't make the roster, but they ended up bringing it back and they elevated him last week. And so that's a guy that may lean on. Taki when he comes back as well as another guy. And Marte Mapu. I think Mapu is a sneaky one that they'll be able to, he's kind of a tweener. He plays in the back, but he also will line up in the box. And so that's a guy who they can kind of work into the mix as well. So I wouldn't push the panic button yet with the Bentley news and with the Bentley injury, but it definitely wasn't great last week, and they definitely need to, get themselves in the room and figure out what happened here and how they can adjust moving forward.
Yeah, the thing that worries me about the defense in particular is that they're very thin as far as depth. I feel like there's one injury away from the linebacker room to that even being like a very, very detrimental part of the team, I guess you could call it. Someone like Curtis Jacobs, for example, comes to mind. Like, I know he's a special teams guy, but at that point, it's like you got to weigh, does he bring any value as far as like a real linebacker? So they need to get healthy pretty much. They need Sione Takitaki back. I think Sione Takitaki would really open up Jelani Tavai's game once again. He wouldn't, in my eyes, I don't think Tavai would have to play so much in coverage if Takitaki's back. Like, he could go back and play on the edge, be that run stuffer that he is. So it's very dependent on how healthy they can be when they come back, as far as Takitaki and Mapu. The thing that with Mapu, it was surprising to me that Gerard Mayo even brought his name up, saying like, yeah, he is a consideration as far as filling in in the linebacker role, because it seemed like they were very set on him being a safety. I don't know if you guys remember that one video when Mapu got an interception against the Chiefs last season. And they I think it was Kyle Duggar that was mic'd up. And he said and they announced it as like linebacker Martin Mapu got the interception. And even Kyle Duggar was like, that's a safety. Like, he's a safety. Like, why are they saying linebacker? So it's surprising that they're, I guess, being flexible now. Maybe it's because push came to shove and they have to. But I personally think that's his natural position. So in a way, the Bentley news could be a positive for him, just because he now can get an opportunity at that position.
Yeah.
Has Mayo said anything?
No, go ahead.
Has Mayo said anything about Takitaki making any progress and like when he'll return at all?
Not entirely. I don't think anybody asked him today, actually, which was kind of odd, because he was asked about Bentley and he was asked about Mapu as well, but nothing on the Takitaki front. I mean, he's been around, like, he's in the locker room. He's a guy who stays around the team for what that's worth. It was reported that he had a knee scope done in the offseason, so he's coming back from that. So I don't know. There hasn't been much of an update on him, but again, he was on the 4-week PUP. He continues to stay on PUP, so he hasn't practiced either since since really the offseason program. And so it's going to take him some time to get adjusted, like we mentioned earlier, about a guy like Ayuk, who kind of wasn't around either. And so it'll be interesting, but long story short, there hasn't been an update on Takitaki.
Yeah. Definitely feel like him coming back, he's pretty decent in pass coverage. He had an interception and 2 pass breakups last year for the Browns, and he was a real impact player for them on defense.
Elliot Wolf loves him. He's the guy. He was obsessed with him when he came out of college. He drafted him with the Browns. The second he got here, he was one of the first signings he made. And now, granted, they don't have the same defensive coaches like they do have carryover from the Browns on offense. So it'll be interesting to see how they play him. But Wolf obviously likes him. So that tells me something, that he thinks there's something there. And I think once he's healthy, now that they need it, he's probably going to be thrown into the fire pretty quickly. So, we'll see what happens.
Tavai was definitely a little iffy in pass coverage. Definitely think Takitaki can take over that role and kind of help Tavai play in his normal habitat on the defense. They have. What do you make of the tackling issues they had? Because I've seen a lot of people kind of credit that to the short week, but I don't know. That was really bad.
I think I would give it another week before I sound the alarms. Like you said, it was a short week. When me and Taylor were doing our planning for what we wanted to break down film wise and how we wanted to attack what happened. Excuse me, I keep yawning. I need to I'm too old to be yawning at less than 10 at night. But anyway, they where the heck was I going with this? I don't know why I just lost. Oh, yeah. The tackling. Yeah. I'm sorry. We were talking about kind of planning our film breakdown and what we wanted to focus on. And I was like, should we do something on the tackling? And Taylor made a good point. It's like, it might just be a fluke. It just might be a 1-game thing. There's nothing to really cover. There's no rhyme or reason for why it just happened. So let's give it a week. And if this continues to be a main theme on defense, then we'll sort of, touch on it again. But for now, I hate to, there's no excuse for it. They made their mistakes and they should be, on their guys. But I just think they had a rough game. It didn't go their way, and they get in the film room and figure out why it happened and, make that an added focus this week. Now, if they go out to San Francisco and can't get it done and they're missing tackles left and right, then we have a problem. Then we kind of got to, hone this thing back in and say, what are we doing wrong? This is not our identity on defense. But for now, it's kind of an excuse, but I just chop it up to a short week. They weren't ready to play. Mayo didn't have them ready to play. And that's kind of where it's at for last week.
Moving on to the offense, we talked about this a little earlier before we came on. Patriots kind of abandoned what was so good about the actual good part of their offense the first 2 weeks, the run game.
Right.
They kind of relied on play action to open week 3 to open up their run game, but that obviously didn't work. Niners have had some issues in deep pass coverage. They've gotten some tough breaks back there, which has resulted in some big chunk plays. Also don't feel like they're getting a ton of consistent pressure from their D-line right now. So how do you think the Patriots can kind of capitalize on the Niners' mishaps on defense right now?
I still think their identity on offense needs to be run the football. I know Mayo says they need to be a game plan offense and a game plan defense, but if your game plan on offense is, no, we need to throw the football, this Patriots team is going to lose if that's your game plan, because they don't have the offensive line. We talked about it. They don't have the offensive line to block it up. They don't have, you said they've let up a lot of deep throws. Well, they don't have the time to set up a deep passing game right now. So they need to run the football, and they need to do that first before they run play action, because, as great of an idea as it was last week for them to run the ball great for, 2 straight weeks and then try and fool the Jets, early on and get the ball thrown. Like, the Jets haven't seen them run the football yet. So they weren't going to fall for anything if you're just running play action immediately. That's just like, oh, let's see what happens first. And now if you establish the run and run the football and get those guys going, then you can throw off of it. But until you establish a run in game, play action isn't really going to work. So I thought that was Alex Van Pelt's big first mishap, as the OC. And I think that's going to happen. He hasn't called an offense, been in charge of an offense in a very long time, even though he's been an offensive coordinator. He hasn't called plays since like 2009 or something like that. Yeah. And so, it's gonna take time. It's still the extension of the preseason that we talk about. But long story short, I think as far as this game goes, they need to run the football. They need to rely on Ramondre. Ramondre needs to hold on to the damn football, because he's now fumbled in 3 straight games and he finally lost one. And so I'm sure that was a talking point and a coaching point and something that he's been, going for this week. But yeah, I don't think things have to. I think the way they win this game on offense is run the ball, slow the clock, don't lose time of possession nearly as badly as you did last week, because that was also one of the main reasons why they lost. And yeah, just kind of go from there. I think you need to run Ramondre, you need to block it up better, you need to get the ball out of Brissett's hands quickly, because you're not going to be able to threaten them deep with the way the offensive line is blocking right now.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stands out to me is the fact that, like how you said, they ran the ball really well the first 2 weeks. Their game plan immediately, I think Pop got targeted like 2 or 3 times, like right off the bat, like in the first quarter. It was pretty evident that they were trying to expand their game, like how Mayo said, like push the ball down the field and pretty much like play a whole different type of offense than when comparing it to the first 2 weeks. It was evident that they couldn't do it, and it resulted in them losing really bad. So I do think that they know their identity is to run the ball.
Right.
And I that's why I kind of found one of Jacoby Brissett's quotes kind of odd, I guess you could say. Earlier today in the morning, he said that they're still looking for their identity and that it's only the beginning of the season. I'm just paraphrasing here, but
sure,
pretty much saying that they still need to find their identity. And I felt like Mayo's been preaching that their identity is to run the ball. So the fact that the starting quarterback's saying that they're still looking for it, but the head coach is saying that, it is to run the ball, and then come week 3, they don't do it at all. Like, that's kind of odd. Maybe that was just them being unprepared, and it was a short week. Like, that was Mayo's first time coaching a Thursday night game. I think that's a big thing too, that people just expect him to know everything as far as coaching.
Right.
He's a rookie as well. And like you said, Alex Van Pelt hasn't called plays since 2009. You could consider him a rookie as well if you want.
100%.
like it was a learning experience, I think, and hopefully come Sunday, it's going to be a completely different game plan. And what I mean by that is that just them getting back to their roots and truly playing to their identity, which is to run the ball.
And I think too, quickly, like it's okay that they tried to get the ball to Pop Douglas, and that has to be a part of your game plan. Like, you're not just going to run the ball 80 times and expect to win the football game. You need to get it to your playmakers. But that is interesting too with Brissett, and I think that could also just be quarterback speak. Like, we're still learning, we're still growing, and they oftentimes they're not going to tell you everything. Like, they're not going to give you the secrets and all that stuff. But one more thing there is just with. Hold on, I had an offensive thought, and now I can't remember. But I think that they need to continue to run the football, not let anything else get in the way of that, and kind of just move forward from there.
Yeah, that kind of segues into the next topic that we're going to bring up, which is their game plan. I know every team's different, obviously, but what do you think has to be their game plan in order to win? I know you mentioned running the ball, obviously, that seems like the consensus, but as far as like the Niners in particular, what do you think they need to do and game plan in order to beat them?
Yeah, so I mean, on offense, like I said, stick to your identity. Run the football, pass when you can. Don't outsmart yourself like you did last week, and get back to that identity on offense. And I think that's where, frankly, you'll be fine, because they are banged up and they do have injuries on both sides of the football right now. Know where Nick Bosa is at all times, and when you're going to pass the football, make sure that you ID him and that he's there, and we have added protection there to keep him off of Jacoby Brissett. And that's obviously easier said than done. They're going to play line games, and they're going to do all sorts of things to free up Bosa rather, and get him after the quarterback. But you can still give added help there, when needed. And that's kind of, I think it's pretty basic offensively, because you can't really get terribly in the weeds with this offense right now. You can't. We were talking about it earlier on our mailbag, myself and Taylor, where they have all these. I don't want to call them gadget plays, but they try and run leak to Hunter Henry, and it gets blown up because, this was in week 2 against Seattle, where Henry could have walked in for a touchdown, but somebody was in his face because Layden Robinson didn't block enough. It's like, those are the types of plays where if it's not perfect, you can't run a gadget play. And right now, nothing's going to be perfect for them. So that's kind of where I'm at offensively, is just stick to your guns, hold the football, run out the clock when you can, play clock management as early as the start of this game, because if you allow, it sucks to say, but there is a way to win, and it's going to be that. And then on defense, it's Christian Gonzalez on Brandon Ayuk, because I mentioned Ayuk as somebody who has not been great to start the season, but he's going to get going, and he's going to get going soon. And you don't want his best game, his game where he really turns it on, to be against you guys. So shut him down with Gonzo, and use Jonathan Jones on a guy in Jawan Jennings, who I think Jawan Jennings, as good as he was last week, he's still just a guy. And he had a great week last week because Brock Purdy played really well, and the Rams were hurt and they didn't know what to expect. But I don't think you have to scramble now that Ayuk's not playing well and Jawan Jennings is. Like, you're not going to put Gonzo on that guy. You're going to put Gonzo on their best player and let everything else happen, and the chips fall their way where they may. So I think that's kind of where they're at on defense. And freaking tackle, wrap up, play line games on your own defensive line, and get after Brock Purdy, because look, I might be in the minority here, but I am not a big Brock Purdy guy. Like, he is, to me, and he had a great week last week. Don't get me wrong. And he played really well, and he took him to the Super Bowl, and he's mobile, and I get all that. But he just seems like another Shanahan clone to me that, you could plug in if Sam Darnold was there, who's playing great football right now, but he would be doing the same thing. Like, Kyle Shanahan is so good at running that offense. So I think if you get after him, and kind of mess him up and get him off his spot, then, you can mess up that offense a little bit.
Yeah, in terms of like you said, the offensive game plan, it's pretty, I don't want to say vanilla, but it is very basic. Like, there's not much they can do, and you laid out exactly what they are able to do. So I can't disagree with that. As far as the defense, though, the one thing that stands out to me, or I guess you could say worries me, is I know you said Jawan Jennings is just a guy, but the thing about him is that I view him in the same realm as like an Alan Lazard, like those tall receivers
Fair.
that honestly give him problems.
Mhm.
And Jonathan Jones, as good of a corner as he is, he did not do well against the Jets receivers last week. Um, Alan Lazard being one of them. That's my only concern as far as like the secondary matchups. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about is who's going to get pressure for them, because the Niners offensive line has been playing well. Dominic Pooney, I loved him in the draft process. Like he's been playing really well for them as a guard.
Mhm.
And obviously they have Trent Williams. I know he's on the injury report. I expect him to play. They need to get pressure. It can't just be Keon White. I don't know if it's going to be them scheming things up. I know they got burnt on the blitz last week against Aaron Rodgers, but that is Aaron Rodgers. So I'm in the same boat as you, though, Mike. Like Brock Purdy, I'm not, wowed by him,
Yeah, me neither.
but he's clearly been able to be successful in the league. So there's something that he's doing right. And the Patriots just can't allow him to do those things right against them. They need to be in his face. They need to get pressure. And that's honestly on DeMarcus Covington as well to scheme things up. I know I brought it up earlier with Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt. They also have a rookie defensive coordinator. So they're all learning on the fly. And it's pretty much just like real world, real game experience. And hopefully last week they can use as a learning experience and just figure things out and honestly take advantage of this mini bye week and game plan better.
Definitely. And I'll add to that quickly before we send it back to you, Andrew. But like they did not contain the edge at all last week against Rodgers. And, it felt like maybe they didn't think they had to because he's a 40-year-old coming off an Achilles tear. But Rodgers got back to old Rodgers last week. He was breaking the pocket. And when he saw them crash off the edge and have no help, he ran for a first down, or he extended the play. And Brock Purdy, as much as me and you, Lois, both said that he's not great in our eyes, he's sneaky mobile and he can get around and he can break pocket for the first down and he can read where pressure's coming and get around the edge and run for 4 or 5 yards and make you pay for it. So you have to treat him, at least with his legs, just like you would prime Aaron Rodgers. So you have to contain the edge. You can't let that slip like you did last week.
Yeah.
I wanted to flip the switch back over to the offense before we move on. So another piece that I think that they need to kind of capitalize on, other than the run game, I know you alluded to that earlier, Mike, and making sure you get that going and making sure Fred Warner is accounted for at all times, is scheming up plays for your playmakers like Demario Douglas. A lot of their brief moments where they had some success on offense on last Thursday night was scheming plays open for Demario Douglas. And he had himself a much, much better game than he's had in the past 2 weeks. And they really got him involved compared to those weeks. And I think getting your playmakers open is really crucial for how this offense runs in being successful.
Yeah, they last week, what they did with Pop was perfect in a vacuum, and I think that they need to do that, not more, but this is what I was going to say before, and it just came back into my head when I kind of stalled earlier, was like they couldn't establish their offense last week because of how bad their defense was, right? And so after 2 drives, they're down 14-0. And so it's hard to go back to your run game when you're down 2 scores that quickly. Like you can't bleed clock at that point, because if you bleed clock, you don't get first downs, you give the ball back and it's 21-0 and it just unravels at that point, right? And so if you sustain or rather contain them defensively, you can set up your offense and your game plan better, in drive 2, drive 3, drive 4. You can get the ball to Pop while also running it to Ramondre. And, Ramondre is in that category of get the ball to your playmakers, right? And they failed to do that last week. They only let him carry the ball. They only had him carry the ball 6 times, which is frankly inexcusable for someone who as good as Ramondre in a run first, run happy offense. But yeah, they did it in the run game last week too. They involved Demario Douglas on a pitch, and they used him in that orbit motion package a ton. Me and Taylor broke that down, a few times today. We'll have a whole video on it later that Amit, once he probably does his PT stretches, he'll cut up for us and put it on YouTube. But no, so yeah, that's huge. I think you need to get Pop involved. You need to get him involved early. And he's a guy who's going to get first down, so he's going to get runs after catch. And he's someone who you can get the ball in his hands quickly and he's going to make guys on every level miss.
Yeah, definitely. So moving on to our final segment tonight is the final game predictions. I'm kind of covering Mike there, so I'm going to hide that after. But game predictions, score, offensive and defensive MVPs. Mike, you're the guest. I'm going to let you go first here.
All righty, guys. I just laid out the entire game plan on how the Patriots win this game, but unfortunately, I don't see it going their way. The 49ers, it's a game for them right now where they lost last week. They're 1-2. They desperately need this. They're at home. The Patriots are traveling West Coast. It as much as they had a little mini bye, it still doesn't line up because this seems like a get right game for the Patriots. For the Niners, excuse me. And so my score prediction is 28-10, San Francisco. It's a little bit of a blowout again, but I think the Patriots, I don't think the score is going to be that bad. I think they can keep it tight early on, and it might just get away from them, towards the end. So I don't think you'll see Drake May at all because I don't think it's going to be that much of a blowout. They might score a touchdown at the end after being up 21-10 or whatever. But I think that's my final score prediction. MVPs, it's kind of hard to give MVPs in a blowout game, but I'm going to go with David Andrews on offense just because he's doing a lot right now, and he continues to have to do a lot. And although he hasn't played great, he's still incredibly valuable to this team, and he's the one that, with all the moving parts to the left and the right of him, and he's had different guards and tackles, and having to, this West Coast offense that Van Pelt runs, they put a lot on the center for line calls and things like that. And so he's the MVP, and he's trudging along, and he's doing the best he can right now. And then on defense, I'm going to give it to Gonzo. I think even though they have scored 28 points in my prediction, I think Gonzalez continues to play well. I think he'll shut down Brandon Ayuk as best as he can. And he'll show once again why he's one of the best cornerbacks in this league. There's storylines and issues and PFF grades and, frankly, nonsense around Christian Gonzalez right now. And he's done nothing but, shut guys up basically every single time he gets on the field. Even he let up a touchdown last week. And I can't say enough how that was the result of Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson winning a rep. And it's that simple. I think people, see, oh no, Christian Gonzalez let up a touchdown and let's panic. It's like, it's a heavyweight fight between a great wide receiver and a great cornerback. And Wilson won the rep, and Aaron Rodgers knew that he had leverage immediately. He threw it, and Gonzo almost tipped it up. So it's like, let's calm down. Gonzalez is going to be fine, and I think he's going to be fine again this week. So that's kind of how I see this one playing out.
Yeah, I'll keep mine short and sweet. I agree. I don't think they're going to win, unfortunately. I'm going to go with 32-7. I think they do score.
Wow, I thought I was bad.
Listen, I had them winning last week. They really hurt me.
They broke your heart.
Yeah. And me, honestly, being there, I'm going to be there Sunday. So
yeah,
I'd rather have a blowout and not have it be like a close game and then get, talked at by fans sitting next to me. But I just don't think they can keep up with them. Maybe Gerard Mayo schemes something up and, lights a fire under them that they come, like you said, it's a get right game for the Niners. It could be a get right game for the Patriots too.
That's true.
The only thing is that they don't have the talent for that, in my opinion. And they're battling stuff as far as like injuries and just growing pains. So I'm going to go 32-7. I hope I'm wrong. But as far as offensive MVP, I'm going to go with Pop Douglas. I think that they do get like a good mix of him and Ramondre in the game this time. I will say the running game. And they do it in a correct way. And I assume that, or I'm predicting that Pop is going to have an even better game, and he's going to build off of what he did last week. So I'll go with him. For defense, I'm just going to go with Devon Godshaw. I'm just going to say that they get beat on the outside runs and outside zone, not up the middle. And like you said, it's kind of hard to give a defensive MVP when you do get blown out. But I'm just going to go with Devon Godshaw. I think they clean up the run game or run defense and just bounce back from last week.
Carlos, is that the first time you've predicted them to lose this year?
Yeah. First time. I had 23. I was telling Andrew, I had 23-20 against the Seahawks with a game-winning field goal, but it was flipped.
Oh man. Well, it's funny. Like and Andrew, I don't want to cut you off. I'll let you get your prediction in here. But it's, at some point you pick with them for so long, and then finally it's just like, oh, they lose, and you just finally get roped into the negativity, and you end up being on that side of it.
Yeah.
So with my game prediction, I'm kind of flip places with Carlos and pick more optimistic score. It's kind of similar to yours, Mike, but I'm going to go 24 San Fran, Patriots 10. I think a really crucial part in how they're going to have to win football games is win the time of possession battle and keep the opposing offense off the field. And they just did not do that at all on Thursday night. It was a total lopside, the comparison between the two time of possessions between both teams. And yeah, that's kind of my main reasoning behind that. For offensive MVP, Carlos, you took mine. So I'm just going to go with Jacoby Brissett. Not in the fact that he's going to have a great game, passing for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns or something, but more just he's going to keep the ball secure. He's not going to turn it over, and he's going to do his best to keep that offense on the field. Really quick, defensive MVP, I'm just going to go with Keon White. I think you really got to disrupt Brock Purdy and his progressions and just make him uncomfortable, because when he gets uncomfortable, that's when the Niners offense starts to kind of fade a little bit. And I think that's going to be a really crucial part of them having success on defense.
I'm with you. It's going to be tough. It's not easy. This league is tough, as we know. And I wonder too, with all of us predicting blowouts, do they put Drake May in the game at the end of it? Do they use this as the turning point where, put him in, you come home, Miami game at home? I've used week 5 as sort of the turning point, and where I think they go to May anyway, but it's going to depend on the offensive line too. So this is a really big game. Even if they get blown out and they don't win, where they're at health-wise, where they're at production-wise, where they're at quarterback-wise. And to me, it's a big turning point in the game. So, win, lose, or draw, there's going to be a lot to come out of this going into next week.
Yeah. Well, Mike, do you have any closing thoughts? Anything you want to say before we head out?
Closing thoughts are, this was really fun. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's cool that, I not just me, but, a lot of us on the beat appreciate what you guys do and the work you guys put in. And it doesn't go unnoticed. I will say that. So keep doing you. And as far as the Patriots, let's be patient. Let's keep plugging away. This team, it's not as close as fans might want to think, but you got to be patient. This is year 1 of a rebuild. And I think there's going to be a lot to take away from the San Francisco game that might have plenty of implications on the future of this team. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I think that wraps up our episode today, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on. We're so happy to have you here and be talking to you.
First guest.
First guest. Oh,
yeah.
Wow. I am honored. I did not realize that. I appreciate that. No, I wish I knew that before my closing thoughts, because I do. It means a lot to, and I'm serious that, you guys would not that you picked me over anybody else, but whatever, but to reach out and to have me on it, it's cool. And like I said, keep doing your thing, and you'll get to where you want to go.
I appreciate
For
it.
the people who don't know where to find Mike, where can they find you?
On Twitter at Mike Kadlick, where if you listen to the beginning of this show, you're going to see some Patriots coverage, but mostly it's going to be Friday pizza, SpongeBob memes, and etc. But no, you can follow me on Twitter at Mike Kadlick. That's where you'll find all my Patriots coverage. Some written stuff on clnsmedia.com, the Patriots Daily Podcast with Taylor Kyles. And yeah, that's where you can find me. My hub is my Twitter. I say that, and you can find everything there.
I'm at NSPGS. At Los Talks Pats. That's where you can find us on Twitter. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight and listened to us just rant about the Patriots. Thank you guys, and we'll let you know when we go live again. See ya.